From the moment I first encountered the words of Jesus, not in a Sunday sermon, but in the quiet of my own desperate searching, I knew there was something far more dangerous, far more revolutionary about him than what I've been taught in safe church classrooms. I remember sitting alone one night, the Bible open in my lap, my heart racing as I read red-letter words that seemed to pierce through centuries of tradition and comfort. They did not sound like the gentle, easy platitudes I had always heard. They sound like an unstoppable fire, a sword that cut through lies, a voice that shattered illusions. And I thought to myself, why don't people talk about this? Why don't preachers warn us how disruptive Jesus really is? Maybe because some of his teachings are too costly, too scandalous, too forbidden for a comfortable faith. Today, I'm going to take you into 10 of the most forbidden teachings of Jesus. Truths so sharp and unsettling that religious leaders have often avoided them. Truths that could change not only your faith, but your entire life if you dare to live them. But let me warn you, once you hear them, you cannot unhear them. You will either reject them and retreat into safe religion or embrace them and never be the same again. So let's begin with the first forbidden teaching. Jesus taught that following him means dying to yourself every single day, not just in a poetic sense, not just in the emotional language of worship songs, but literally laying down your personal dreams, your ambitions, your self-protection, your comfort, and letting them be crucified with him. He said, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. In the Roman world, taking up a cross meant walking toward your own execution. No one came back from it. This was not an inspiring metaphor. It was a death sentence. And yet, he calls us to it every day. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most Christians do everything they can to avoid the cross. We want Jesus without dying to ourselves. We want resurrection without crucifixion. But the two cannot be separated. When I first realized this, I fought against it. I thought I could follow Jesus and still hold on to my right to comfort, to control, to be liked. But he gently and persistently brought me to places where my pride had to die. My plans had to die. My need for approval had to die. It hurt, but it was in that dying that I found a life more free, more fearless, more real than I ever imagined. The second forbidden teaching is that loving your enemies is not optional. It is a proof that you are truly his. Jesus didn't just say, love those who love you. That's easy. Everyone does that. He said, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. This is not a suggestion. This is a core of his kingdom, and it's one of the hardest things you will ever do, because loving your enemies will expose the poison of bitterness inside you. It will strip you the right to vengeance. It will force you to see people not as the sum of their sins, but as souls in need of grace. When I was betrayed by someone I trusted deeply, my instinct was to protect myself, to make sure they never hurt me again. But Jesus whispered into my rage, bless them. And I argued with him. I told him he didn't understand what they did, but of course he did. He was betrayed with a kiss. He was beaten and mocked. And even then he prayed, Father, forgive them. When you obey this forbidden teaching, you will feel like you're losing. But in reality, you're breaking the chain of hate. The third forbidden teaching is that wealth is more dangerous than poverty. Our world treats money as security, success, even proof of God's favor. But Jesus consistently warned that riches choke the word, that it is hard for the rich to enter the kingdom of God, not because God hates wealth, but because wealth can easily own us. I remember reading the story of the rich young ruler and feeling uncomfortable. The man was moral, religious, and blessed, yet Jesus told him to sell everything and give to the poor, and he walked away sad, not because the request was unfair, but because he loved his wealth more than he loved God. And here's the part no one wants to admit. If Jesus asked many of us the same thing today, we would also walk away. The fourth forbidden teaching is that your family cannot come before Jesus. Now, this one cuts deep because family loyalty is sacred in almost every culture. Yet Jesus said, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. He was not commanding literal hatred, but using strong language to say that even the most cherished relationships must not compete with our loyalty to him. I've seen people walk away from their calling because a family member disapproved. I've seen parents stop serving because their children complained. But Jesus makes it clear. He must be first. The fifth forbidden teaching is that the road to life is narrow and few find it This contradicts the popular belief that most people will make it to heaven if they're good enough. But Jesus said, enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. These words shatter the illusion that faith is about being nice or spiritual. It is about entering through them alone, and that means many will reject it because it costs too much. The sixth forbidden teaching is that true greatness is measured by service, not status. The disciples argued over who was the greatest, but Jesus turned everything upside down by saying, the greatest among you will be your servant. In a world obsessed with influence, recognition, and platforms, this is a forbidden way of thinking because it dismantles our ego. When I started in ministry, I thought success meant more people, more attention, more invitations, but Jesus kept showing me that the real heroes of the kingdom are often unseen quietly, washing feet, caring for the forgotten, serving without applause. The seventh forbidden teaching is that forgiving others is tied to God forgiving you. This one is dangerous because it leaves no room for holding grudges. Jesus said, if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. We can try to explain away, but the words are clear. Forgiveness is not a feeling. It is a choice to release someone from the debt they owe you. It is costly. It feels unfair, but it is the way of the cross. And every time I have obeyed it, I have found chains falling off my own soul. The eighth forbidden teaching is that faith without obedience is dead. Modern Christianity often treats faith as mental agreement. But Jesus said, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? He warned that not everyone who calls him Lord will enter the kingdom, but only those who do the will of his Father. This is dangerous because it exposes hypocrisy. It calls us to a lived-out obedience, not just belief. The ninth forbidden teaching is that persecution is not an accident. It is a promise. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. Jesus said, in a culture that prizes acceptance, we avoid anything that might get us rejected. But Jesus promised that following him would mean opposition, mockery, even hatred. The final forbidden teaching is that the first will be last and the last will be first, a complete reversal of our natural ambitions. He calls us to live for a reward we cannot yet see, to endure loss now for eternal gain. And every one of these teachings, if lived out, will make you seem strange, radical, even dangerous to a comfortable world. But they will also make you alive in a way nothing else can. And perhaps the most unsettling part is that many of these forbidden teachings are not just ignored by the world. They are actively resisted by those who claim to follow him. His words pierce through comfort, tear down false security, and demand a loyalty that cannot be bought or faked. The first forbidden teaching is this: you must love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, not tolerate them, not simply avoid retaliation, but actively love them. This is not natural to human heart. It is a direct assault on our pride and sense of justice. To pray for someone who has wounded you deeply is to place their soul above your right to vengeance. And yet, Jesus says without this, we cannot be children of our Father in heaven. The second forbidden teaching is that following him requires you to deny yourself daily, take up your cross, and die to your own will. This is not the comfortable Christianity of culture, where faith is a set of uplifting quotes and good morals. No, this is a call to surrender your rights, your dreams, even your life if necessary. It is a death sentence to self and a birth into the will of God. The third forbidden teaching is that you cannot serve both God and money. Jesus did not say it is hard. He said it is impossible. And yet we live in an age where wealth is worship in the name of blessing, where greed is disguised as faith, and where success is measured not by obedience but by accumulation. To take his word seriously here is the risk being labeled irresponsible, unwise, even foolish by the standards of the world. The fourth forbidden teaching is that you must forgive, not 7 times, but 77 times. Unlimited forgiveness, radical mercy. This is not about ignoring justice, but about releasing the poison of bitterness that chains your soul. Forgiveness does not excuse sin, but it does break the cycle of hatred. The fifth forbidden teaching is that the way to greatness in the kingdom is through servanthood, even slavery. Jesus washed the feet of the one who would betray him. He told us the first will be last, and the last will be first. This is not how the world works. The world says climb higher, push further, outshine others. But the kingdom says go lower, give more, be unseen if necessary. The sixth forbidden teaching is that unless you eat his flesh and drink his blood, you have no life in you. These words were so shocking that many disciples left him. This teaching is about complete union with him. He must become your sustenance, your life source, your very breath. It is about abiding so deeply in him that without him, you starve. The seventh forbidden teaching is that those who wish to save their lives will lose them, but those who lose their lives for his sake will find them. In other words, security is an illusion. Safety is not the goal. Life is found in surrender, in risk, in stepping into the unknown because he called you. The eighth forbidden teaching is that the road to life is narrow and few find it. This is an offensive truth in a culture that preaches inclusivity without holiness. The idea that most will choose the wide road to destruction is unbearable to hear, yet Jesus spoke it without hesitation. The ninth forbidden teaching is that the world will hate you because it hated him first. If your life blends with the world's values and desires, you must ask yourself if you are truly following him. And the 10th forbidden teaching, the one that silences rooms and stirs deep unease, is that he is the only way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to Father except through him. This is the most exclusive claim in all of human history, and it means every other path leads to death. These teachings are not safe. They do not leave you comfortable. They demand a response. The question is, now that you know them, what will you do? Will you turn away like the crowds who said his words were too hard? Or will you follow, knowing the cost, but also knowing the reward?